We're talking about climate change as one of our biggest problems our generation is facing. But what if I tell you that climate change is not a problem? It's probably the biggest opportunity that our generation has. This is me 15 years ago. I know I look similar. While climate is changing, few things remain constant. And I started my journey as a young volunteer, as a young change maker. I was very inquisitive, very interested to do something good. And that took me to some working with some very interesting nonprofits, cost-based organizations at an early in my life. What I learned during this experience was that while you work with different communities, just one second, I think I forgot to pick the clicker. Sorry, yes. So yes, while you work with different communities, I realized that you build something which is very important and a lot of us as young people should learn is being empathetic. The lens of empathy allows us to see things from a very different lens from somebody who we cannot directly connect with. But while we start working closely, we're able to see the world from their lens. Empathy taught me that while climate change is a global phenomenon, it might affect different people in a very different, and especially some of the most underserved communities. So that's when I started working closely with more climate change based organizations, started being part of a lot of climate strikes and various other initiatives. Very interestingly, while you work with a community of like-minded people, I realized that there are some great, it's just not me and a handful of people, there is a global community of like-minded young people, and I found myself in London few days ago. Sorry, few days later. How that had happened, right? So when I was working, somebody identified that I was really, committed towards a cause, and that person from that NGO saw a huge opportunity in terms of having me be a part of a global program in London for a week long with fellow 60 young change makers from all over the world. What that experience taught me is the power of communities. While as a single person or handful, sometimes big problem seems like very challenging work, but when you're working with like-minded people, you find your peers, you find support, you find mentors all together. So the role of communities was very important in helping me take my next leap into being a change maker. When I came back to India, I was so motivated by these fellow friends I made from all over the world who were all very young. I was like 16, 17 by then. Now you would have guessed my age. But they were doing some incredible work. Like somebody talked about Greta. These are the kind of people who become Malalas and Gretas of their world and doing some incredible work. So that inspiration from fellow people allowed me to start my own initiative. And I had just started my undergrad in few months, and then I saw a big problem out there. That's what empathy taught me as well. That how do you see problems not just as problems but as a solutions? I started making my campus litter free, segregating the waste, disposing the waste, and engaging the local recyclers. This reminds me of a very interesting quotation from Steve Jobs, who said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them backward." At that time, it did not make much sense to me, but when I think about it now, it makes a lot of sense. The things I did, the people I meet, everything had a beautiful uh, role to play in the journey of what I am today, what I am doing. And in fact, talking to you all today here is also probably one of those important dots in the process. But I don't know how this is going to happen. But when we'll probably look back, it might make a lot of sense. So that one initiative caught attention of somebody in my fellow group who told about this initiative to her father, who happened to be from the Plastic Manufacturers Association of Delhi. And he said, what you're doing is very interesting because you're not saying ban it, like one of our previous speakers just talked about it. We're talking about dispose it and dispose it right. So how about we take your initiative to a larger, give you a larger platform, and we make the heart of Delhi, the Connaught Place, litter free. So while we are sitting here today, not too far from here, I started working in Connaught Place to make it the litter free, the most cleanest and litter free part of Delhi. So this was while I was in my undergrad, and I started working with local rat pickers, with the shopkeepers, with the government, the NDMC, the municipal corporation. So that's when I realized the power of partnerships, also working with multi-stakeholders. That everybody wants to do something, but you need people to make them come together, have a shared vision, and then everybody pool in resources. So within 1 year, we were able to achieve a very spectacular feat and do a lot of impactful work. But with good work comes interesting challenges. I wouldn't say big problems, but I would say the challenges are what it makes the journey exciting. This was an all-funded project. It was a CSR initiative. So I had to make it a sustainable business model. And I started researching, learning, meeting with the people I looked up to. That's where again the power of community came very helpful. And I found a very interesting model of waste management, probably one of the first models of zero waste management in Delhi. And we started a project in Chanakyapuri, again, not too far from here. And that's me. We built India's first zero waste project, which focused on treating the entire waste of a complex inside and give back to the community. It was based on a circular economy model. We made briquettes from your horticulture waste. We make manure from organic waste, and we made oil and gas from the plastic waste. One of the first few setups that we brought, and it was a self-sustainable, scalable model of waste management. In the interest of time, I won't talk about much, but I was invited to some very prestigious forums. This was at a CII international summit to talk about this model, and so many more things. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about from my experience is how climate change is probably one of our biggest opportunities that we have. Pandemic happened, we all are recovering from that phase. But one of the good things that pandemic made us realize that there are so many ways of conscious living. And if you are aware that if you've seen how the business trends have also made, investments have made, ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance, have performed extraordinarily well. So the companies which are becoming more sustainable, more environmental, they have tend to perform far better than the ones who are not. What does this mean for younger generation? What does this mean for us? It means that we are living in a generation where doing good is not just only for society or is on a sacrifice. Doing good can come back with exponential return. So how do you start looking at doing good? What is the first step? First step is you have to stop complaining and thinking that you can't do something. You can do everything that's possible out there only if you see from the lens of a solution, not from a problem and blaming. Think the bigger the problem, the bigger is the opportunity. Look at around us. So many problems to solve. When you walked in, there was so much of pollution. You can look at carbon capturing. When you look at packaging, you can make it sustainable package. When you look at transportation, you can come up with such interesting ideas for people to carpool, and so many more ideas. So having step one is having the lens of a solution, a change maker, a problem solver, and not always complaining. Second is start having big ideas. If you think small, it will not push you, every morning. Starting something, making big isn't easy, right? So you have to have a big, hairy, audacious goal which push you out of your bed each morning and gets you started. Third, the power of communities again. You never know who you would meet at the event today, who could be your investor, who could be a mentor, who could be a co-founder, right? So each and every opportunity to learn, connect, share ideas is helping you move forward. Fourth is starting up, right? Like it's important to take action, right? It's very important to not think about that someday I'll be, I don't know, I'll be like 50 years old, I've settled in life, then I want to do something. It is the problem of now, and it needs a solution right now. And somebody talked about sustainable development goals. The problems are, there's so many problems out there, but each and every problem, like I said, is also one of the biggest opportunities. So while we are the generation which will probably the first generation who will be the most affected by climate change, we might be the last generation who can do something about it. So we have to act now, and we have to start now. Thank you.